Hello. So last night was monumental drama in the British Parliament, and two really interesting slip-ups in that process of trying to defend Boris, and I think the final result, it may have been a victory for Boris in some sense. Technically, it may have been a victory, but it will be a hollow victory because it will not last. It cannot last. The two slip-ups. The first one is Rees Mogg. Rees Mogg is now the Minister for Brexit. I remember him at Oxford, actually. I remember him being when he was quite young. And he was also in Mrs. May's government. And he criticised Theresa May quite roundly in 2018. And she herself was facing a vote of no confidence. And he said, before that vote, he said that the Prime Minister must realise that she should see the Queen, especially when the overwhelming majority of her backbenchers were going to vote against her. She clearly doesn't have the confidence of the Commons. She should make way for someone who does. And then a little bit later, after the vote, he said, it was a bad vote for the Prime Minister. 117 votes against her. Much worse than she had thought. 1/3 of the parliamentary party, the overwhelming majority of backbenchers, is against her, and she should go. And now, he had said initially that a majority of one would be sufficient for Boris to survive this vote of no confidence. A majority of one. And in fact, today he went crowing into the Cabinet Office and he said, he won by more than I had said was enough. Yeah. And he lost by 148 votes. 148 was the figure that voted against him. And as William Hague, a former leader of the Conservatives, though not a Prime Minister, of course, William Hague and a former Foreign Secretary, a good Foreign Secretary, had pointed out in an interview that there was no plot, no conspiracy to create that 40% vote against Boris. That's a phenomenal vote against Boris. And he said it's like driving along the M1 with two flat tyres. That level of disaffection cannot be sustained. You cannot survive on that level of disaffection. It will end badly. The Prime Minister has to energise his party. And he cannot do so when 1/3 of the party is actually opposed to him and is going to actively conspire, presumably with the opposition, to make sure he cannot get legislation through. This is an appalling state of affairs. Because today, rather than a huge communal sigh of relief and a getting back together, there is still friction in the House of Commons and among Conservative backbenchers. This has not launched the boil. So Rees Mogg said, it was a good victory. He won comfortably. What utter tosh. What utter tosh. Now, the second major slip-up was, of course, Nadine Dorries. I mean, why do I even mention it? Every time when I look for a problem, Nadine Dorries is waving a flag and saying, over here, over here, over here. What more can I do? What more can I do? Can I put my foot in something else? Oh yes, and she can be relied to do so. And so this time, while she was busy castigating Jeremy Hunt, which was completely inappropriate, really, while she was busy telling us that Jeremy Hunt's management of the health service under a Conservative government was wanting and inadequate, and that his recommendations for dealing with COVID were wrong, and he is wrong now. I mean, this is like drilling a hole in the bottom of a boat while we are in the middle of the channel. This is madness from a minister. She should not be tolerated in cabinet. She shouldn't be tolerated on the airwaves. She should not be, not only should she not be a minister, she should not be an MP, I'm afraid. She is an embarrassment. And why is she given so much airtime? Because she is a hilarious embarrassment. She is worth her weight in gold to television broadcasters because she can be relied upon to look ridiculous. And there's a number of people in Parliament who have that potential. Nadine Dorries is definitely fulfilling that. She is simply bonkers. And yesterday she said that we are at war with Ukraine. Utterly mindless. Utterly mindless. And thank God President Zelensky didn't recognise that, because he said this morning that he was relieved that Boris had survived the no confidence vote. Of course he's relieved. The one good thing Boris is doing, and doing well, is his work as Foreign Secretary. He's clearly replaced Liz Truss in all but name. If anybody does not have confidence in Liz Truss, it must be Boris. I certainly don't have confidence in Liz Truss, so I suppose I'm next on the list. But yes, Boris is demonstrating from the heart of government that he doesn't have confidence in his Foreign Secretary because he's running that show. And doing so really very well. Really very well. That is something he is doing well. So maybe he should step aside and become Foreign Secretary. It wouldn't be the first time a Prime Minister has gone from being Prime Minister to eventually becoming Foreign Secretary. Wouldn't be the first time. But it would be a good thing for him to do, I think. He might be able to do the job better than he did first time round, when frankly, he was a little bit useless. This time he's not. But he is showing that his choice of ministers, his responsibility, is inadequate. His inability to command the favour, his inability to command the forces of his party is inadequate. So as a Prime Minister, he is demonstrating that he is inadequate. Now, I've said all along, I do not think that he should leave at this particular moment because there isn't a natural successor for him. And I think the likely people to throw their hats into the ring to succeed him are so abhorrent, I think he needs to cling to the wreckage and keep going. I think the longer he clings to the wreckage, the more chance there is that the Conservative Party will lose the next election. In fact, I'm almost convinced the Conservative Party will lose the next election. But I think that is significantly better than surrendering a Prime Ministership to Liz Truss or Priti Patel. Somebody even mentioned Nadine Dorries might make a bid for it. I mean, that would be... the airways would never... the BBC would make a lot of money with people just watching those clips again and again and again and listening for all the pratfalls. But, there will be plenty of those if Liz Truss tries as well. Liz Truss, as we may recall, is the lady who doesn't know where Rostov-on-Don is. Rostov-on-Don, defined by literature and geography, Liz. Defined by both. But sadly not by you. But there we are. There we are. We live for another day.